Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. Usually when we talk about performance or, human potential, we tend to focus entirely on the output.
Right, the highlight reel stuff.
Exactly. It's always how fast did you run or how much weight did you lift.
How many goals did you score?
Yeah. But today we're actually going to look under the hood.
Hmm.
Because if you think about the human body as a machine, which in a lot of ways it really is, most of us are driving it while only looking at one single gauge.
The speedometer.
Speedometer, just pace.
And that is a really dangerous way to drive. I mean, if you're in a high-performance car and you just completely ignore the engine temperature or the RPMs or the fuel mix, eventually something is going to blow up.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, you'll never actually know what the car is truly capable of doing.
And that's our mission today. We've got this fascinating stack of research here, a document called Indicators of Exercise Load.
Oh.
And we are going to use it to decode the dashboard of the human body.
It's a great set of sources.
It is. We're going to look at 4 specific gauges that sports scientists use to separate, basically, the novice from the elite. So we're talking heart rate, lactate, oxygen consumption, which you probably know as VO2 max, and one that I hadn't thought much about before, the RER.
Oh, the RER is a complete game changer once you understand it. And, what I really love about this source material is that it moves us completely away from subjective feelings.
Right, because feelings lie.
They absolutely lie. I feel tired isn't a metric. I feel strong can be a total illusion. What we want is to understand the actual biological feedback loop. So you, as the listener, know exactly when you're building the engine and when you're just grinding the gears.
Okay, let's start with the gauge that, pretty much everyone has strapped to their wrist these days, the tachometer, heart rate.
Yeah, it's the most accessible indicator we have. Heart rate is basically telling us exactly how much load the circulatory system is under at any given second.
And it's super sensitive, right?
Incredibly sensitive. It reacts to intensity, it reacts to heat, to stress. It's always the first needle to move when you step on the gas.
But the research highlights this really specific difference in how that needle moves for a novice versus, say, an elite athlete. I think we all intuitively know that a pro athlete has a better heart, but the graph they show in the notes is just stark.
It really is. So picture a graph where the bottom axis is power-like running speed on a treadmill, and the side axis is heart rate.
Okay.
For a novice, that line is steep. They start jogging, and boom, heart rate just shoots straight up.
So it's linear and aggressive.
Exactly.
The engine is basically revving hard just to get out of the driveway.
That is a great way to put it. But if you look at the elite athlete's curve, it is significantly flatter.
Really flat.
Yeah, they increase the power, they run much faster, but their heart rate rises so much more slowly.
Right.
They can generate massive amounts of power while keeping the engine strictly in the green zone.
So why is that? Is it just that they are mentally tougher and they can sort of suppress their heart rate? Or is there something physically actually different about the organ itself?
It is absolutely physical. And this brings us to a concept in the literature called the sports heart.
The sports heart.
Right. It's not just a cute nickname. It's a literal structural adaptation.
Yeah.
We aren't just talking about genetic gifts here. We're talking about profound physical changes that happen after long-term systematic loading.
So when you say structural adaptation, you mean the heart literally changes shape?
It does. The source material highlights that the heart chambers, specifically the left ventricle, they actually get larger.
Wow.
The bucket gets bigger, essentially.
Huh?
And the myocardium, which is the heart muscle wall itself, gets thicker and stronger.
Okay, so if the chamber is bigger and the muscle pushing it is stronger, that has to mean it pushes more blood out with every single beat.
Correct. And that specific metric is called stroke volume. Think of it like a water pump. An untrained heart might be using, say, a teacup to bail water out of a boat. A sports heart is using a giant bucket. And if you have a bucket, you just don't have to scoop nearly as often to move the exact same amount of liquid.
That makes so much sense. That totally explains why the elite athlete's heart rate line is flatter on the graph. They're doing in one single beat what I might need 3 beats to do.
Exactly.
Ooh.
And we can actually quantify this sports heart. There's a metric detailed in the notes called the heart quotient.
Oh, right, I saw that. It's a formula.
Yes, it's heart volume in milliliters divided by body weight in kilograms.
Okay, and what are the benchmarks?
For men, if that value exceeds 13, and for women if it exceeds 12, sports scientists officially classify it as a sports heart.
That is wild. You're literally bioengineering your own organ to be a larger, more efficient pump.
You are. And that efficiency leads to one of the most striking stats in the entire document.
Yeah.
Bradycardia.
Now, normally, bradycardia, which just means a slow resting heart rate, that's a medical condition, isn't it? Like if an average person walked into an ER with a heart rate of 35,
The doctors would be grabbing the defibrillator pads immediately.
they'd think the electrical system was completely failing.
Right. It's a huge red flag for the general public. But for an endurance athlete, it's a badge of honor.
Because it just shows how big that bucket is.
Exactly. The source notes that an untrained person usually has a resting heart rate of about 70 beats per minute.
Pretty standard.
But a well-trained athlete, their resting heart rate can be as low as 35 beats per minute.
35. That sounds like they are literally hibernating.
It really does. It just shows how massive that stroke volume is. The heart is idling so low because it barely has to twitch to keep the blood moving through the body.
So they're saving, what, tens of thousands of beats every single day compared to an average person?
Easily.
I do want to flag something for the listeners here, though, because the text mentions a gender difference in these numbers.
Yes, it's an important note. Generally speaking, women have slightly higher resting heart rates than men.
Just because of smaller average heart volumes.
Right. Naturally smaller chamber sizes.
Yeah.
But the training effect itself, that massive drop in your resting rate as you get fitter, that happens to everyone. The relative improvement is identical.
Now, speaking of resting heart rate, there was a warning light mentioned in the text, a sort of check engine light that I think is super practical.
Oh, this is a crucial takeaway for anyone listening who tracks their data. Because your resting heart rate isn't just a fitness score to brag about, it's a daily recovery barometer.
So what's the red flag?
The text says if your resting heart rate increases by more than 8 beats per minute during a training block, and you're also feeling exhausted, that is a highly specific sign of illness or overtraining.
So if I'm usually, let's say, at 50 beats a minute when I wake up, and tomorrow I wake up and I'm at 60...
And you feel wiped out, that is a blaring alarm. Your body is screaming, I am stressed. Specifically, your sympathetic nervous system is stuck in fight or flight mode. It hasn't shut down to repair the damage from yesterday's workout.
That is incredibly actionable. If you see that +8 jump, you don't push through. You back off.
You have to back off, otherwise you're just digging a deeper hole that's going to take weeks to climb out of.
Okay, before we move off the tachometer, we have to touch on the upper limit, the red line, max heart rate.
The famous red line. Generally, this lowers with age. We just can't fight time.
The formula in the text is the one everyone knows, right? 220 minus your age.
That's the baseline starting point, yes. But the text adds a very important disclaimer that most people ignore. It's 220 minus age plus or minus 15 beats.
Plus or minus 15. That is a massive variance.
It's huge. Think about it. Two 40-year-olds could have max heart rates that differ by 30 beats.
Right, because one could be minus 15 and the other plus 15.
Exactly. One might max out at 165 and the other could hit 195. That's why you can't just blindly follow some generic colored chart on the wall at the gym. You need to know where your specific red line is so you can set your training zones correctly.
Okay, so that is the tachometer. We know how fast the engine is spinning. Now I want to shift gears and look at the exhaust. Because apparently, checking what's coming out of the tailpipe can tell us exactly what fuel we are burning inside the engine.
This brings us to the RER, the respiratory exchange ratio.
This one sounds a bit technical, but I love the analogy we were tossing around before we started recording. It's basically determining if your body is acting like a hybrid electric car or a gas-guzzling dragster.
It's the perfect way to visualize it. Clinically, the RER measures the carbon dioxide you breathe out, the CO2 versus the oxygen you take in the O2. By looking at that exact ratio, sports scientists can tell precisely what your body is using for energy at that moment.
Walk us through the numbers. It's a scale from 0.7 to 1.0, right?
Right. So if your RER is 0.7, your body is burning almost exclusively fats. Fats require a lot of oxygen to break down, so the ratio stays lower. This is your electric motor mode. It's super efficient, it's sustainable, and you have a massive battery.
Because even a really lean athlete has enough fat stored to run for, what, days?
Literally days. Tens of thousands of calories are just waiting there. Now, as you start to run faster, say you're merging onto the highway, that electric motor, the fat burning, it just isn't punchy enough. You need faster energy.
So the combustion engine kicks in.
Exactly. You start burning carbohydrates.
And the RER number starts to climb.
Yes. At 0.8 or 0.9, you are in a hybrid state. You're burning a mix of fat and carbs. But once you hit 1.0,
That's the dragster?
pure carbohydrate metabolism, you are burning high-octane sugar as fast as you possibly can.
So why does this matter for the listener? I mean, if I'm running a 5K, who cares if my RER is at 0.7 or 1.0 as long as my legs are moving?
It matters because of the physical size of the fuel tank. Like we said, your fat tank is essentially bottomless. Your carb tank, it is tiny.
How tiny?
Maybe 2,000 calories total, stored as glycogen in your muscles and liver. If you run at an RER of 1.0, burning only those carbs, you will completely run out of fuel in about 90 minutes.
Oh, and that is what hitting the wall is.
That's exactly what hitting the wall is. Your brain just shuts down the muscles because it's out of sugar.
So the goal of endurance training isn't just to get faster, it's to teach your body to stay in that hybrid or electric mode at much higher speeds.
Precisely. You want to save that high-octane sugar for the final sprint to the finish line, not burn it all up in the first mile.
Which brings us perfectly to the byproduct of burning that high-octane fuel. The third gauge on our dashboard, the turbo gauge, lactate.
Or lactate. It really has such a bad reputation.
It does. Everyone thinks lactate is the enemy. It's the burn, it's the soreness the next day. But the source material actively corrects this, doesn't it?
It completely flips the script. Lactate isn't just waste, it's actually a fuel source itself. But more importantly for reading our dashboard, it is the ultimate marker of metabolic stress.
Now, unlike heart rate, which I can just look at my watch for, lactate usually requires a lab setup, right?
Usually, yes. It requires a prick of blood, usually from the earlobe or the finger.
Yeah.
And it gives us a shockingly precise picture of what's happening inside the muscle cell.
So what are we looking for in the blood?
Well, we all have a baseline level of lactate, even when we're just sitting on the couch. It hovers between 0.5 and 2.2 millimoles per liter.
Millimoles. Okay.
But when you start pushing hard, that number changes. And the text outlines 3 very specific zones based on this concentration.
Let's break those down.
Zone 1 is the aerobic zone. Here, lactate is staying under 2 millimoles. This matches up perfectly with that fat-burning electric state we just talked about.
So your body is clearing the lactate just as fast as it's making it.
Exactly. It's a clean burn.
Then we step on the gas.
Then we enter the aerobic anaerobic mix. This is between 3 and 7 millimoles. Now, the body is starting to struggle a bit.
The engine's working harder.
It's producing lactate slightly faster than it can clear it out. I like to think of it like credit card debt.
Oh, that's good.
You're spending just a little more than you earn. You can keep it up for a while, maybe a long while, but eventually, bill comes due.
And if you push even harder...
You hit the anaerobic zone.
Yeah.
Anything above 7 millimoles, this is fast glycolysis.
Yeah.
You are maxing out the credit cards, the debt is piling up aggressively, and you are in a high-intensity state that you simply cannot sustain for more than a few minutes.
Now, there is a detail in the text about measuring this that really surprised me. It's about when the lactate actually peaks.
The delayed reaction. This is so critical for testing.
Because I always assumed that the second I stop sprinting, like when I'm bent over hands on my knees, that's when my lactate is at its absolute highest point. I mean, that's when my legs burn the most.
It feels that way, but that's not what the blood shows. The source emphasizes that lactate concentration keeps rising after you stop exercising.
Really?
Yeah, it actually peaks between the 3rd and 10th minute of rest.
That is a huge delay.
Think of it like a massive traffic jam leaving a football stadium. The game ends, that's you stopping your sprint, but the traffic out on the highway, which is the lactate in your blood, doesn't actually peak until 20 minutes later.
Because it takes time for everyone to get out of their seats and into their cars.
Exactly. It takes time for the lactate to travel from the muscle tissue into the bloodstream where we can measure it.
That makes total sense. So if you prick your finger immediately after a hard interval, you're actually getting a false low reading.
You are. You're completely underestimating the load you just put on your body.
And visually, if we look at the graph described in the notes, heart rate is a nice steady line going up. But lactate?
Lactate is an exponential curve. It stays flat, 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 and then boom, it shoots up almost vertically.
Like a hockey stick.
Yes. And that corner, that exact point where it shoots up, is your lactate threshold. Finding that point is probably the single most important thing you can do as an endurance athlete.
Because if you stay just a hair below that corner, you can run for an hour. But if you push just a hair above it...
You're on borrowed time, the debt piles up, and you're done.
Perfect. Okay, so we have the pump, which is heart rate. We have the fuel mix, which is RER. And we have the stress gauge, lactate. Now we need to look at the engine size itself, the metric that really separates the family sedans from the Formula One cars.
VO2 max. the holy grail of endurance metrics.
This is the one everyone brags about, right? Oh, my watch says my VO2 max is 55, but what is it actually measuring?
Biologically, it represents the organism's ultimate ability to receive, transport, and use oxygen.
Absolute ceiling.
It is the ceiling of your aerobic room. It simply asks,
Yeah.
how big is your engine?
And the difference between a normal person and an elite athlete here is, well, it's pretty humbling.
It is massive.
Yeah.
Let's look at the baseline stats from the source. An ordinary man has a VO2 max of about 45 milliliters per kilogram per minute,
45, okay.
and an ordinary woman is about 35.
Got it. And the elites.
Elite men exceed 78,
Wow.
and elite women exceed 68. We are talking about nearly double the physical capacity to process oxygen.
That is staggering. It really is like comparing a lawnmower engine to a Ferrari.
It is, but, and this is a really big immense, but having a massive engine isn't the only thing that matters. The source makes a vital distinction here about endurance capacity.
Okay, what's the difference?
It's not just about the absolute size of the engine. It's about how long you can keep the pedal to the metal without overheating. This is the concept of utilization.
Oh, I see. So VO2 max is your maximum potential, but you obviously can't run at 100% of your max forever.
Exactly, you'd blow the engine. The text breaks it down beautifully by time limits.
Let's hear them.
For a short race, say 10 to 15 minutes of all-out effort, an elite athlete can hold 95 to 98% of their VO2 max.
That is incredibly intense. They are basically redlining the entire race.
They are. But if you stretch that race to 20 or 40 minutes, they can only hold 90 to 95%.
Still high, but it drops.
And if the race is longer than an hour?
It drops below 90%.
Correct. Always below 90. So effective training isn't just about raising the ceiling by getting a higher VO2 max score. It's about raising the floor. It's training your body to be comfortable operating closer and closer to that ceiling for longer and longer periods.
Okay, so we have our 4 gauges now. The tachometer is heart rate, the exhaust is RER, the turbo is lactate, and the engine size is VO2 max. I want to try and synthesize this for the listener so they can picture it all working together. Let's go back to that runner on the treadmill.
Let's do it.
Okay, they start jogging. It's easy, conversational pace. What are the gauges doing?
Okay, on an easy jog, heart rate is low and steady, maybe 120 beats a minute.
RER.
RER is hovering around 0.7 or 0.75. You are firmly in electric mode, burning almost pure fat.
And lactate?
Flatline. You're under 2 millimoles. There is zero metabolic stress.
And VO2 max.
You're just cruising, maybe using 40 or 50% of your capacity.
Okay, now let's crank the speed up. They are running hard now. Let's say 10K race pace.
The dashboard completely changes. Heart rate is climbing steadily, maybe up to 160.
What about the fuel?
RER is shifting up toward 0.9. You're dumping carbs into the engine now to keep up with the demand. The hybrid motor is working really hard.
In the stress.
Lactate is creeping up into that 3 to 7 range.
Yeah.
You're accumulating some credit card debt, and the body is scrambling to clear the waste.
And finally, they are sprinting. It's the last minute of the race. All-out effort.
Red alert across the entire board. Heart rate is nearing its absolute max. RER hits 1.0 or even slightly higher. You are burning pure sugar.
And the lactate.
It spikes vertically past 7 millimoles. The turbo is fully engaged. The credit cards are completely maxed out.
And VO2 max.
You are pushing right up against your absolute biological limit of oxygen intake.
And eventually.
Eventually, physics wins. You have to stop.
You know, what I find so empowering about this whole deep dive is the idea that none of this dashboard is static.
That is the ultimate takeaway.
We aren't just stuck with the engine we were born with.
No, we aren't. And that's what training actually is. It's not just getting used to suffering. You are engaging in literal biological engineering on yourself.
Yeah.
You are physically enlarging the heart chambers. You are strengthening the myocardium. You're shifting that lactate curve to the right so you can run faster before the debt piles up.
And that brings us right back to that concept of the sports heart. It implies that the heart of an athlete is a fundamentally different organ than the heart of a sedentary person.
Functionally and structurally, it absolutely is. And I think that's the most provocative thought to leave you with today. We tend to think of our anatomy as fixed, like my heart is my heart.
Right.
But the research clearly shows that if you put in the work, that systematic loading mentioned in the text, you create a sports heart. Through sheer discipline, you change the anatomy of your most vital organ to be twice as efficient as the average person's.
You're building a better machine from the inside out.
That's the beauty of it. So the next time you look at your watch during a run, don't just look at the pace. Visualize the dashboard. Think about the pump, the fuel mix, and the turbo gauge.
And check your resting heart rate tomorrow morning. It might just tell you something really important about how well you're recovering. Thanks for diving in with us.
Always a pleasure.
See you on the next one.